Welcome back to the Sense of Life podcast. I'm Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And today we are talking about Takashi Miike's Black Society Trilogy, which is a loosely connected trilogy of films. Actually not connected at all, really, except by like their titles.
Yeah.
And they are just like a kind of series of crime dramas that he did early in his career, 95 to 99 for the trilogy. He probably released like 30 other movies in that time frame as well.
Right. The legendary Takashi Miike, a favorite of ours, one of the goats.
Yeah.
Starts out in what was called the direct-to-video V cinema market in Japan. I think we've talked about this on previous episodes with him.
Yeah.
And by the time this movie comes out, this first one in 1995, he's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 movies up to 94, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 movies released in 1995.
Yeah, he just puts out those movies like it's nobody's business.
He just cranks that shit out. And this first movie, Shinjuku Triad Society, was the one that kind of puts him on the map globally. First theatrical release to gain public attention. Maybe it wasn't globally. Maybe it was just in Japan.
Yeah.
And yeah, because he gained international fame from Audition, which came out the same year as Leyline. It's hard to believe that.
Yeah, and how many Takashi Miike things have we covered? We did his Harakiri remake, we did Audition. We did we do any other movies of his? It's hard to keep track, honestly, because
it's like trying to watch all of his movies.
Right, because I know there are several of them that I've watched like multiple times, and I've talked about it, and we've talked about like wanting to do them as an episode, but like actually having done them, it's like I don't remember. I think most of our Japanese cinema that we've done has been from the 90s and early 2000s as well.
Yeah. Actually, a very early concept for this podcast was going to be just focused on Takashi Miike.
I remember that. And then we realized how hard to track down most of his movies are because they're made for nothing and released on nothing.
And in addition to that, and this is kind of like thematically appropriate for us doing this episode this week, is I had found this other podcast called Agitator, which Agitator is the title of a Takashi Miike movie.
Right.
And it's also a podcast that was originally focused around Takashi Miike movies and then kind of expanded out. I'm kind of friendly with the people over there. There's Kelby Losack and J. David Osborne. Shout out.
Yeah, shout out to those guys.
And
so someone had already done what we were thinking of.
Yes, yeah. And I remember like texting you or something. I was like, we're gonna have to ixnay on the Kashi Te Ike Me podcast idea because it already exists. But actually, this just this past week they released their new episode of the new version of their show. So this kind of works as like a spiritual send off to the OG Agitator into their new format. If you listen to their podcast, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Check them out. They're great. Cool guys. Both writers. I need to read their work. A lot of books to read. Sorry, guys. And yeah, all of that said, Shinjuku Triad Society. What did you think?
Now, this movie, it feels like it definitely is on the... Because you had mentioned this in your Letterboxd review, that there's like the two sides of Miike, where it's like... There's the more traditional, the more straightforward kind of like just raw talent Miike, and then there's like the more wild experimental side. Not nearly as experimental. I guess Dead or Alive is kind of like on the level of Love and Pop, and how fucking insane the direction of that movie was.
Right, exactly.
So he can be pretty experimental in that sense. And this definitely kind of leans more into the zany, like off the wall, like crazy Miike. Uh, Especially when you compare it to Rainy Dog, which was the movie immediately after this in the trilogy, which is like just very depressing and like matter of fact in its presentation of violence and stuff.
Yeah.
And this movie, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, me too.
Not my favorite of the trilogy.
Right.
I would order it as Rainy Dog, Shinjuku Triad Society, and then Ley Lines.
Yeah.
I don't. My experience of Ley Lines was also sabotaged because the streaming service I was
Right.
using for some reason had the subtitles delayed by at least 10 seconds. So 10 to 15. So an entire conversation would play out in text form, and then I would hear it afterward, and I was like, okay, that's really bad. That's not good at all.
Yeah.
Especially because I think in a scene where the dialogue is so spaced out in that movie, it's almost there's a lot of silence between the dialogue, and like long pauses, not just like you know, the natural silence between people saying things, but like not quite Refn level of silence, but like it was decent spacing between things. And in that downtime, it's kind of hard to appreciate the aesthetics of a movie and like actually take it in when the parts of the scene that are silent, you're looking at the subtitles to try and figure out what is about to be said, because I know some Japanese, but I can't understand it, you know, that well. I still need the subtitles, so I had to like...
Yeah, and also all of these movies are like in Japanese, Taiwanese, Chinese,
same thing,
Mandarin. Yeah.
Yeah. The interesting thing, they kind of all, I guess, Ley Lines is specifically just set in Japan, but like Shinjuku Triad Society and Rainy Dog have like scenes that are in, I guess Rainy Dog is solely in Taiwan, specifically Taipei. And Shinjuku Triad Society has like parts where the main character goes between Taipei and back to Tokyo. So Miike is a bit of like a this was something I was actually looking for other works of his. He's kind of all over Asia. His movies, like he's got movies that are in Chinese or like Chinese and Japanese, and he I think a couple years ago did a South Korean drama called Connected about like some guy who has his organ harvested, and then he meets someone who had an organ transplant or something. So it's like, I don't know what that's the only thing I read about the premise, was the like brief description of it.
I think he also did like a South Korean miniseries for Hulu recently.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so like he's like all over the East Asian market. He's making entertainment for everyone there, and
just gallivanting around shooting psychotic shit.
Yeah, he's got one project set up. That's probably how he does so many movies. He's got projects set up in Japan, and then he's like, "I'll fly to China for the afternoon and shoot 3 movies." And
it's kind of Roger Corman in the like, we got this set or we got this location, but we got it over the weekend, and I still have the cameras here. The rental goes up on Monday, so let's shoot a little something on Sunday. And
it's like how George Romero, when he did the '78 Dawn of the Dead, which you are not a fan of,
not a fan. No.
They had to shoot all the scenes in the mall at night because it was a mall that was still being actively used, because malls used to be used by people. And aren't giant husks that exist in
now they
in
feel like a
now.
Real apocalypse.
Yeah.
You go to one.
You go to a mall and it's like, where is everybody?
Although
like
every once in a while, I go to this theater, this landmark at a mall, and it's fairly busy. Both the theater and
okay.
the mall. So like you'll see like teenagers like having a good time. I'm like, maybe America's still alive, somewhat.
It's really interesting when you go to a mall during like a time of day where you would expect there to be a decent amount of people, but it feels like what a mall feels like on a weekday late at night when you had to go
Yeah,
and get something, and then you're walking around there's nobody here. But then
yeah.
it's during a time when you were younger, it would have been very full of people.
Yeah, and whenever I go to that theater, I usually go for a late show. I'm actually going to see Terrence Malick's Badlands tomorrow night, which is going to be pretty cool.
Okay.
Um, it's like got Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek and some others. Classic '70s crime movie that I haven't seen.
Right.
Um, Whenever I leave, it's only the theater that's really open, so everything else is closed. So it's like really eerie going outside because there's no one there, and it's like almost all dark. Very
Right.
strange.
Uh,
Um, Speaking of, you had mentioned Refn earlier. I think I said this to you. I feel like these three movies remind me a lot of the Pusher films.
yeah.
Uh, Maybe not
That.
stylistically, but maybe somewhat stylistically, but just the ethos that was used in making those.
Yeah,
If that makes
I
sense.
can see the connection there, especially as the second of the Pusher trilogy is like a lot more of a like grounded personal story
Yeah,
with Mads Mikkelsen's character, and then like he has like a little kid in that,
yeah,
and then Rainy Dog being the second movie in this trilogy is about a like former yakuza who is now living as a hitman in Taipei, and
yeah,
this like Chinese woman shows up at the beginning of the movie, and she's just like, "This is your son. I've been raising him for a couple
yeah,
years. He's your problem now," and she just leaves.
yeah,
um, so yeah, it's kind of interesting seeing like at least in that specific context, like those two movies kind of have the similar thematic thing of like a really shitty, unforgiving world. That, or I guess
yeah,
all of this entire trilogy's thing is how shitty, unforgiving, and brutal the criminal underworld is. And
yeah,
if you so much as dip like a pinky toe in it, like it's like a blackness that will fucking never let go.
mhm,
uh, and you always end up paying, which
yeah,
uh, is definitely a strong thematic element through these three movies because a lot of people fucking get killed.
yeah,
And uh, Shinjuku Triad Society, um, I think it is the weirdest of the three, but
oh yeah.
it's not even really that weird.
It's the most Miike of the three, I
Yeah,
think.
it's like I put the movie on, and I had already seen Rainy Dog, and I knew the way that movie was grounded. So when I
Mhm.
started this one, and I was like, "Oh, this movie started with a gay blowjob
Hell yeah.
from like a weird Chinese
On
twink gangster with a
on a
knife."
toilet that is in a stairwell for
That's
some
right.
reason.
Yeah.
And it's like based.
Yeah,
Let's go.
that's how the movie starts. Uh,
Yeah,
I had messaged Tumulus, friend of the pod,
yeah.
and I was telling him like in real time as I was watching the movie. I said, "Oh fuck, where did I say it?" Said so far the film has started with a gay blowjob performed by a psycho twink killer. And then he said, "Damn." And then I said, "And I don't mean a psycho that kills twinks. I mean a twink that is a psycho killer."
Important distinction.
Yeah. Because the next thing that happens is the cops break in and the little Chinese guy runs away, and then as one of the cops is chasing him down an alleyway, he like slits his throat and runs away like laughing. And you're just
Yeah.
sitting there like, "Oh."
Oh, damn.
That's how the movie
Yeah,
started.
yeah. This is a. movie that kind of similar to Love and Pop, but in a different way. It's one that really makes you like get jazzed about the possibility of film, like low budget film,
Right.
and make you just kind of want to go out and make something.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I guess all three of them kind of have this feeling in the
yeah.
scenes where they're in the packed streets, where you're like, this feels so guerrilla style, where like
Mhm.
Miike did not have a fucking permit to be walking around and doing this shit.
Can you like just pause? Sorry to interrupt. Could you just imagine the conversation between Takashi Miike and some like Japanese bureaucrat about a permit and how that would go?
Yeah, I need to film a blowjob here. Is that all right?
This dude's gonna like shoot cum and then
Yeah.
eat it or something.
That's how Ichi the Killer started. You remember that?
yeah, exactly.
Did we watch Ichi the Killer for the podcast, or did we just watch that on our own?
We just watched it on our own.
Okay,
I think
yeah.
we need to rewatch it. I need to give it another chance.
That movie, just as a side note, that movie starts with an ejaculation spelling out the title of the film as the title card. That is Ichi the Killer's title card is written in semen. So, if that doesn't tell you what kind of filmmaker Takashi Miike is, I don't know what will.
Gay.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no like concrete like thing out there about him being gay, but like the kind of things that happen in some of his movies, you're like, that's kind of gay.
There's a and we're probably gonna like just jump around all three of these movies.
Oh, of course,
basically.
yeah. I might have a bit more
scene,
of a coherent point about Rainy Dog, but yeah, as far as the other two, I'd probably just be jumping around.
There's a scene in Rainy Dog where he comes home to what they think is a safe haven, and the homosexual there, that
yeah,
they
Sandy.
think that like rats them out. Basically, he's like, "Oh God, what?"
He's talking about the guy that he killed. The character had said something along the lines of the girls and gays are glad to see that guy dead.
Girls and gays are glad to see him dead.
And it's like
which
that,
is like
only a gay man could have written that dialogue.
only a gay Twitter user. that's like the equivalent of saying like cunty boots and gay shit like that.
He had the gay 90s lingo going in his movie.
The gay Zoomer lingo, 30 years in the making.
Insane.
Just absolutely amazing and psychotic.
Yeah.
The apparently Sight and Sound compared Shinjuku Triad Society to the gangster films of Kinji Fukasaku. I have not seen the gangster films of Kinji Fukasaku, but Miike did remake a Fukasaku film, Graveyard of Honor.
Okay.
So
I started watching the first of Fukasaku's Battles Without Honor and Humanity.
Yeah.
I started watching it, and it was like a movie that I put on way too late at night, and I fell asleep.
Yep.
And I did not fall asleep because of the movie. I fell asleep because I was tired. So
yeah.
And I don't believe that movie's on Tubi anymore. So it's like shit. I should have watched it when I had the chance.
Yeah, I think that might have to be one that I get on like a
Blu-ray set or something.
Yeah. I think I have I bought this like probably a year ago at this point. I bought the box set for the what is it? Lone Wolf and Cub from Criterion. I haven't watched a single movie from it. It's just been sitting there. I haven't found the right time for it.
There's another gay thing that happens in that movie. Just as a segue, using Takashi Miike's possible homosexuality as a jumping off point. There's another scene in this movie in Shinjuku Triad Society where like the Chinese guy is like hanging out with these Japanese Yakuza types, and there's this one, like for some reason like one of the Yakuza guys just wants a blowjob, and he like gives the Chinese guy like a mint or something to like chew on or something like that.
Oh
right?
yeah. I thought it
and
was like a cube of like an ice cube.
oh, it might have been an ice cube.
Like,
I didn't see, and I was like, this is just such a fucking bizarre scene to throw into the movie.
Have you seen that? It was like a banned quote unquote commercial for Pop Rocks. It's like a French commercial or something.
Is it a Pop Rocks themed French blowjob?
Yeah, yeah. It takes it. It's like a fucking porno. It opens. It's in a classroom, and this girl goes up to the teacher and like pulls down his pants, throws in the Pop Rocks into her mouth, and starts sucking them off.
What the? What kind of commercial?
Psychotic. Look it up. It's,
I have to imagine this was like a rogue agent at whatever fucking candy company makes Pop Rocks.
Yeah.
I doubt like the board of directors were like, yes, the French market will love this. I mean, they will. Don't get me. The French market loved it probably, but I mean, I know I do. It's a crazy ad.
It's quite the sight to behold.
Yeah.
It obviously doesn't actually show anything.
Right.
It's meant to be a commercial. But that was the only thing I was thinking of during these scenes with this ice cube.
Right.
Or mint or whatever it was.
Whatever it was, yeah.
Yeah.
And the kind of like main plot of this movie is essentially like just the main character is like a dirty cop, and his brother is like the lawyer for this triad group, and his motivation in the movie is essentially just getting his brother and like getting him the fuck out of there. Because his parents are sad that their son is associated with triads or whatever. They might actually be too old and senile to even know like what was even going on with the other brother. I think they were.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, like it's a very bare bones kind of plot. You're kind of just there for like the very raw guerrilla style like cinematography going on, because pretty much every scene of this movie is out on some random street in like Kabukicho or something.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting because I think with all three of these, with maybe the exception of Rainy Dog, but I don't know, the quote unquote plot of this movie could be made as like a 30-minute like short film.
Right.
But it's expanded out to this like what feels almost too long at times.
Yeah, all three of these movies are like about an hour and 40 minutes, which is not long for a movie, but like especially with Shinjuku Triad and Ley Lines, the plot is thin enough where like I think maybe even 90 minutes might have been better.
Rainy Dog definitely feels the most cohesive.
Yeah,
of the three.
That is like maybe not like Hanabi level of like holy shit, this is like a masterpiece, but it's like it is, if you were to encapsulate like Miike's mid-90s career and like say what movie from then would you recommend someone watch just as like as objectively like his best movie from that time, you'd be like, well, yeah, check out that movie. Check out Rainy Dog.
Right.
And I guess this movie kind of just plot like trods along for the most part. Stuff just kind of happens. You just kind of take it in. The Yakuza boss guy that gets like his whole organization gets like wiped out by the Chinese triad. And there's a part where like the boss character is like laying on the ground, and he gets shot. That guy was played by Ren Osugi, who played the cop that gets paralyzed in Hanabi. And then he like takes up painting, if you remember that from that movie.
Right. Yeah.
And he actually died in 2018. I did not know that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, rip to that guy.
Kitano also got paralyzed and took up painting.
So. Yeah, that's I made a tweet about that the other day when there was like you see those stupid engagement bait things on Twitter where someone's like, "What's your favorite death scene in a movie?" and there's like 80 billion quote tweets where it's just people posting movie scenes, and like a dumbass, I was like, "Yeah, I'm posting one." So I quote tweeted it with a clip from Hanabi, the scene where he's in the Yakuza's car in the snow near the end of the film, and they've tracked him down, and they're like, "Oh, we know you robbed the bank, and I know you paid us back, but I think you owe us a bit more interest." And then he just fucking guns them down.
Yeah.
I had posted that, and then coincidentally later on that day, I saw you had retweeted something where it was like, "Oh, today was Kitano's birthday." Just pure coincidence. I posted a Kitano clip as like one of my favorite kills in a movie on his birthday, not knowing it was his birthday.
Yeah, shout out Low Res Wonder Bread.
Yeah,
from Movies Podcast. Fuck, I had a thought and it has just left.
Tragic.
Oh yeah. On that engagement bait tweet thing, there was one about Twin Peaks, which happens weekly, really. And it was like, which one of these girls is the hottest? And it led to people saying that actually Twin Peaks is about how hurting young women that are hot is bad. And it's like, buddy, I don't know if you've seen any David Lynch. Dude's a horn dog. He ain't no small bean. I'm sorry.
Media literacy leftists when you show them the unbridled horniness of David Lynch. Good lord.
Yeah, I think we really need to retire the phrase media literacy.
Oh yeah, it's always used by some idiot that doesn't know what they're talking about.
Used by an illiterate.
But yeah, someone who specifically doesn't know what they're talking about, who could not analyze a movie, telling you what they think they know to be the only correct interpretation of that thing.
Yeah.
Shockingly evil. Whatever the title of that Zac Efron movie is. That's my opinion.
Wicked, shockingly evil, and vile.
Yeah. Me when I click on the fucking Twitter app every day.
Yeah, there's a lot of extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile happening right now with everyone dogpiling on Camille Paglia for like 48 hours straight.
What did she do? Or I guess
nothing.
I suppose it was a clip from like 20 years ago.
30 years ago. Like
30 years ago? Yeah.
She's been around for a long time.
Oh, yeah. I forgot 20 years ago was 2004.
Yeah.
And not like 1995 or whatever, because my brain.
Yeah, we're getting old.
Yeah, the funny thing is I'm not old, but like we're not old by any measurable like sense of the word, but like it still feels weird.
We're just geriatric zoomers. That's what it is.
the fucking early zoomer.
Yeah, the millennial zoomer cusp or whatever.
Right.
We're the man screaming at the clouds.
The liminal space between millennial and Gen Z. Not old enough to
what it is.
Not old enough to have really truly enjoyed the N64. That's basically it. That's how I
yeah.
That's like the strict cutting off point there is like if you're just old enough to like you just were right there before, like right after the N64 and you just couldn't really appreciate it. I had a PS2.
I had a PS1 and then a PS2. But the PS1 was like already going out when I had it, and the PS2 was coming out. And the N64 was just like a concept that I understood. And also, this gets back to like way back to like our 4th episode. There was like at like McDonald's, they used to have those like really disgusting games of like the N64 and the GameCube on it, or like Mario Kart and shit. I played on those a lot.
Okay. The ones that had like the most disgusting like layer of like thickened skin cells like in all the cracks of the controller and stuff.
Yeah.
hand crud just in every crease of the controller. Yeah.
Just
the worst
Buffalo Bill skin cells on the McDonald's game controller.
That's what Buffalo Bill needed in his fucking sick basement in Silence of the Lambs is a fucking N64 kiosk.
It puts the N64 controller in the basket.
Holy shit. Yeah, not a fan of that idea. That's probably the worst place you could ever put a fucking kiosk for a video game is in a McDonald's where grubby little greasy children hands, fresh off of a fucking little Happy Meal, would be all over that shit every hour of the day.
Yeah.
That's vile.
That is the known unideal for sure.
That's like, picture that, and that's kind of the grimy aesthetic of all three of these movies. Is like the Happy Meal grease on a public kiosk in a McDonald's. That's what '90s Japan was like.
Oh.
There are scenes, like there was a scene in Ley Lines where the prostitute character is luring them up onto the top floor of the building so she can lock them in the room and run off with their wallets. Where they're walking on concrete slab stairs that are just existing, hovering outside of the fucking thing like it's a Fortnite structure someone just generated. Like, it's fucking insane. Like, you know the shot I'm talking about, right? Like, I might
think so, yeah.
I might have to like screenshot it and post it in the video right now. But like, it's just straight up like not safe, not safe stairs, just hanging off the side of a building. Yeah, it's like, this is like Japan. I know the '90s is called like the lost decade or whatever, but it's like when you see like New York in a '70s movie and you're like, fuck.
Right. Yeah. Or like any city in America now.
Yeah, it's like it's like the '80s where like Jason Takes Manhattan or whatever. And it's like, there are like barrels on fire everywhere, and like piles of trash
or whatever.
Yeah. Even like children's movies like Home Alone, Lost in New York. There's like a scene where he just goes to like the most decrepit and evil part of New York City. Have you seen that?
I don't know if I've seen Home Alone 2.
Oh man, there's a like it shows him doing all the touristy stuff in New York, but then there's like a part where he's out at night. And he's like walking by all these crazy like drug addict homeless people, and there's like these two prostitutes that are like in a Home Alone movie, and they're talking to Kevin, and it's like one of them was like, it sounded like she was making a joke solicitation. It's like, what is this scene? But like Jason Takes Manhattan, if you watch that movie, it's like there's like barrels of toxic ooze in New York City, and it's like, what the fuck is going on?
Hell yeah.
It's like what's that, the Kurt Russell John Carpenter movie, Escape from New York. It has New York in the title, and I forgot it. I forgot it. The city I was talking about, where it's just like a nuclear fucking holocaust or whatever, like that.
Yeah,
that vibe is what I get looking at '90s Japan filmed from Takashi Miike is crazy. I mean, even Rainy Dog, like Taipei, was just corrugated roofs everywhere, just metal shacks.
Yeah, it was kind of like. Did you see Godzilla -1?
I still haven't seen it. No, they're releasing like a. I think it's called Godzilla -1 or Godzilla minus color, which is like a black and white re-release of the film. Yeah. I might check that out.
I mean, the color version was great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not opposed to watching the color version. I just heard about this black and white version that was coming out. I was like, oh,
yeah. It's a pretty good movie. I liked it. It opens. Well, actually, it's after the opening. The early parts of the movie take place in like post-war Japan, where they're rebuilding, and it's just like completely destroyed and ramshackled.
Yeah,
like just debris everywhere. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking of when you were describing that. Anything else to say about Shinjuku Triad Society? Uh,
I think Rainy Dog executes on what it was going for with its ending much better and much clearer. Where
yeah, I think
that
you're right.
movie kind of ends with the main character walking down the sidewalk in like a crowd of people, and he kind
Mhm.
of has a moment where he looks back at the camera as if he's hesitant because someone's following him, and then the voiceover says something about hearing about a cop named Kyria, which is the character's name, being killed in an alleyway or something. So it's like the movie just kind of throws out, "He died, by the way," and you're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
okay." But Rainy Dog very explicitly like shows you that motherfucker's dead. We killed him.
yeah.
Um,
This might be uh, not our typical style, but do you want to save Rainy Dog for last and just say a few things about ley lines? Because I don't have a lot to say about this
sure.
one.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to end on the high note of praising
Yeah,
Rainy Dog.
yeah,
Ley Lines is um, I think a lot more maybe straightforward isn't the right word. It's kind of like the main characters almost remind me of the characters in
Kids Return, right?
yeah, that and
Right.
what was the other, Boiling Point, where it's just like they're
Yeah,
young
yeah,
and kind of stupid.
yeah,
While Shinjuku Triad Society has like this, you know, corrupt cop main character who's kind of already seen the depravity of the criminal underworld, and Rainy Dog being like a former yakuza who's like hiding. But this
yeah,
this movie was like, you've got these young guys who are like Chinese heritage people living in Japan, and
yeah,
they they live in um, Tokyo, same location as Shinjuku Triad Society, because um, uh, a lot of the scenes are shot in Kabukicho, which is like the red light district of Shinjuku, and
yeah,
that is where that's like the main location in all the Yakuza games. There's like a fictionalized version of that. So like
yeah.
I was watching these movies, and every like 10 seconds, it's like when SpongeBob was showing Gary the commercial for the Krusty Krab, and he's like, "There I am, Gary, there I am." Like that was me watching that movie. I was like, "Dude, that's Theater Square."
It's like Leo in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah. He's
Yeah,
whistles. He's like, "Oh, hold on." Look,
yeah.
I like screenshotted a couple things. I was like, "Oh, that's Theater Square right there."
Bro, he's literally me,
Yeah,
a video game character.
it's literally me.
uh,
This is like, it's kind of silly for me to do that because it's like an actual just like
yeah,
really popular touristy
yeah.
area where a lot of people are going through. It'd be like a Japanese guy watching like a fucking New York movie, and he's like, "It's just like in Grand Theft Auto 4." He's like, "That's just this.
Yeah,
That's this spot in Grand Theft Auto 4." Yeah, it's modeled off the city.
yeah. Um, it's speaking of Yakuza, I just want to mention this a little bit. We didn't notice this when it happened, but your viral tweet about the Yakuza games
Oh yes,
got got mentioned in this, like,
niche
what was it,
gamer
Niche
article.
Gamer? Yeah.
Yeah, this was brought to my attention by
Attention.
Kess, friend of the podcast, who
Yeah.
pointed out. I think she was reading through some niche gamer articles and clicked on that one, and literally, it's not really an article though.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you look at the article, it's like Yakuza fan accuses Sega of slowing down English voice actors' audio, and
Yeah.
essentially the entire article is a screenshot of my tweet, and then
Yeah.
the user continued, and then another screenshot of me saying something, and then it's like, and others said, and then it's just screenshots of me replying to other replies. And
Yeah.
this article is from like December like 18th or
11th
something.
or something. Yeah.
It was like not. It was around the time I made the actual tweet, and
Yeah. So
it took until
some
now, like almost a month or like over a month, for me to actually be aware of the fact that there's this whole article.
There was no like tagging. There was no like, hey, we mentioned you.
There was no, so hey, can we mention you? There was no, there was no, there was not even a reply saying, hey, your tweet's in this article. Like, I had to find out from... It was actually kind of funny because Steele, friend of the podcast, who's actually going to be on an upcoming episode, he's like, yeah, Kess was telling me that you're famous now, and I was like, what do you mean I'm famous? What the fuck are you talking about? I had to wait like 15 minutes for him to like go talk to her to figure out what the fuck she was talking about. Yeah. So I was in suspense. I was like, what happened? I was like looking through, trying to figure out.
Did I just get canceled?
And it was literally just like, this guy accused this company of doing a thing, and it's like, well, listen to the tweet, man. They did the thing. I mean, I know you have to like use the weaselly lawyer speak, because you can't just say, this company did this thing, because then the company will go, we're a company and have lots of money and sue you for accusing us of this negative thing. But they fucking did the thing, I was saying. That's all I'm going to say.
They fucking did it, bro.
Yeah. So I guess kind of off of that tangent, ley lines is kind of just like these young, I don't even know how old they are. They seem like 18 to 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
20 might even be pushing it, I don't know. And they're like these 3 Chinese heritage dudes that are just kind of like delinquents, I guess, in Japan, and things kind of escalate as they start selling like drugs as like this inhalant or whatever. And
it's like packaged in Pepsi bottles.
I thought those were like, there's like these little glass bottle like Japanese energy drinks that they sell, and I thought that's what that was. But
could be that.
Yeah. They get robbed by this prostitute character, and then she is like traumatized by some crazy dude who there is a camera shot in this movie that is the point of view from inside. I don't even know how to describe this. The camera is like a POV shot from like inside her vagina looking at the guy. It's so weird. And she is like traumatized by this and decides to not be a prostitute anymore.
Her nickname, by the way, is Killer Pussy.
I saw that.
Just want to throw that out there.
That is such a bizarre. I'm trying to remember, because I think the subtitles I had actually called her something different, and because I had to listen to the audio like 15 seconds after the subtitles, I was specifically trying to listen to hear what the fuck they were saying. And I don't remember. It might have been. I think she said wild, not killer.
Yeah, my working subtitles said killer. So.
Okay, yeah. I had the most bootleg version on this streaming service. It was the weird thing is it had the other 2 movies on there, and they worked fine.
Yeah, I mean, shit happens.
Yeah.
They probably like pulled some like pirated copy or some shit and just put it on the streaming service.
They kind of go like from 0 to 100, because they're like, oh, delinquents, haha, we're selling this thing that people inhale, and then all of a sudden they're like, they drive a moped into like a little ramen shop and have a Desert Eagle and like shoot some like triad dudes and steal a big pile of money. And the one of the friends, or one of the 3, 2 of them are brothers and one of them is their friend. His name is Chang, and he's played by Tomorrow Taguchi, who plays a character named Wang in Shinjuku Triad Society. So he also plays the pursuer in Rainy Dog, the guy that like is the kind of wacky Yakuza guy that's trying to kill the main character who he like beats up at the
Right.
beginning.
Yeah.
So I guess he's like the
Yeah,
connecting
I never
thread of
saw
all
that.
three of these movies.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Do you think they all take place in the same like Marvel Cinematic Universe or something?
I have no idea. I mean, if so, him and Sho Aikawa play different people in the movies.
Well, I mean, that's happened. So.
Oh yeah, I know. It's like watching the Sergio Leone, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or the Dollars trilogy,
Yeah, yeah.
where you've got like the same cast of background Italian actors being dubbed over in English every movie,
Hell
playing
yeah.
completely different people.
And it slaps every time, you know.
Yeah, killing it every time.
Yeah, I guess my main thing with this movie is um it's got some pretty shots. It's competently made. Um I just kind of was bored by it, and
Yeah.
not in a way that I was interested in the boredom concept, which I think can happen.
So like with Shinjuku Triad, it makes you feel like the way that it's shot in kind of guerrilla style, you feel like you could go out and make something like this. But then Ley
Yeah,
Lines is like, oh, if I went out and tried to make something like this, it might be like that.
it might
uh,
put me to sleep.
and uh, the this movie also has some really crazy color grading in certain scenes. I don't know if it
Yeah,
was the
yeah,
same on the Blu-ray.
yeah. It
Where
was.
like the sky is very very like orange, and
Yeah.
it's clearly like a fake effect
Mhm.
trying to simulate like sunset, I guess. And
Yeah, it's a cool effect and it kind of works, but
yeah.
with a lot of the movie, it's like it doesn't feel like it means anything. It just seems kind of connected from the whole.
Right.
So
Yeah, I
I
mean,
had a hard time with this movie.
this movie kind of also has a similar problem with its ending to Shinjuku Triad Society, where um, watching it at the time, like um, the main character, who is played by Kazuki Kitamura, who is a Miike regular. He's also in Kill Bill. I don't know if you knew that. Um, he
I feel like I
plays
did.
he plays one of like the masked yakuza guys in that movie. In that big fight scene where she kills all of them.
Right. Yeah.
He plays one of those guys, and
Mhm.
he's the main character in this. His brother like runs off to deliver Chang's portion of the money uh, to his mother because he got killed during their attempted robbery, or I guess their
Yeah.
successful robbery. um,
Yeah.
and uh, he like gets killed coming back. Um, uh, they like cut off his hand. You don't really see him get killed, but they find his hand on the ground and his bike all like mangled. So you just kind of see, oh,
Right.
like they
Yeah.
killed him. Um,
Well, it has that one shot when he's on the bike and the Wong's gangsters or whatever are in the truck and are coming at him, and it has the a reaction shot of him, and then it cuts to the other two.
right. So it is implied but not shown that he gets killed, and then you see his hand on the
Yeah,
ground. It's like, oh, he's dead. Okay,
yeah, yeah,
and then
yeah,
the main two characters who are Ryuichi and the character's name is Anita. I will refer to her as Anita and not Killer Pussy. That is not what I'm going to call her. Um, and
Well,
they
that makes one of us.
yeah, and they make it to this like harbor area, and they're going to get on a boat to Brazil. Why they're going to
Right.
Brazil,
Yeah.
no idea. I assume there's a big Japanese populace in Brazil. I think Tumulus told me that once. It's like,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, I think like Brazil is like, as far as this might just be a fucking lie. I'm just making shit up on the spot. But I think he told me
Spreading
that like
misinformation.
I think he told me that Brazil has like a really large like Japanese diaspora.
Okay.
So I guess that's probably why they went to Brazil. But as they get to this boat that they're going to take, it's revealed that the Chinese triad guys paid off the boat captain that they were going to like use to smuggle them out of the country, and they like get cornered on the dock, and they shoot the leader of the triad and jump into the water and
lose all the money.
Lose all of the money, and then they take out like an M60.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
It's like they're just like shooting into the water. And it's like, well, if they were in the water, the bullet wouldn't actually hit them because like once you're a little bit under the water, like the bullet is just not going to have enough energy to actually like do anything. It'll dissipate rapidly. But whatever. The movie ends with like a shot of them bloody in a rowboat out in like open sea, and the blood is actually still pumping out of a wound on the main guy's chest as he's rowing the boat. And I guess I didn't interpret it this way at the time, but the Wikipedia says that they are shown rowing a boat, though they are covered in blood, presumably indicating that they are already dead. So I guess the shot of them out in the open ocean is like a symbolic kind of thing.
And they're going down river Styx kind of symbolism there.
Yeah. And they're dead.
I think,
which is sad.
This is this movie suffers from having a lot of like surrealist concepts, but no like connection to reality at times.
There's also just like shit that just kind of happens. Like
which can be cool. I mean,
they're like former allies in drug dealing are played by Sho Aikawa, the guy who plays the main character in Rainy Dog. He's relegated to like a minor antagonistic role in this film, and a black Ghanaian guy named Barbie. According to the Wikipedia, that's what he was called.
And he like speaks Chinese, I guess.
No, he speaks Japanese.
Yeah,
they're in Japan, so that.
Well, I could have swore he was speaking Chinese at one point, then Japanese at another point.
He might have. His introduction is him speaking English, yelling motherfucker and stuff in a bathroom.
Yelling at some prostitute or something.
He's like yelling at her in a bathroom stall, and he's like, "You broke all my fucking bottles." And he's like just lining up all these bottles full of drugs on the counter next to this like 18-year-old kid, and he's just like, "Hey dude, you want to join me in dealing drugs?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go."
And then that guy gets killed too. He gets shot by the main character, who is just like casually. It's funny that he's like clearly a guy who's never shot a gun before, and Takashi Miike was like, "Let's give him a Desert Eagle," which is a fucking ridiculous gun for someone to be firing as their first firearm. Like I think the way that Anita reacts to firing the Desert Eagle in the final scene of the movie is how he would have reacted to firing the Desert Eagle, because like the recoil is insane, because it's like I'm pretty sure that what does a fucking Desert Eagle fire?
Decal?
50 Action Express. Yeah. That is a big bullet.
It's a big chungus.
I don't know if you guys are gun nuts or not, but that's quite a big bullet. And so yeah, that's kind of that movie. It's goofy. It tries to kind of be serious by the end, but it doesn't really work, I don't think.
The Wikipedia here, English title refers to ley lines, the paranormal concept of geographic lines of energy based on the placement of landmarks.
Yeah, I tried to read the Wikipedia on that shit, and it was like a white woman was trying to explain something to me. I was like, you know that the gif of like the guy blinking in confusion? That's kind of like if I were to reduce my entire existence to a gif. which is kind of sad.
Yeah, I think it's
that's how
like
I would summarize that.
I think it's the idea that like popular like landmarks are built on these like they're kind of like spiritual fault lines,
Right.
and they're like fonts of spirit like paranormal power that draw on, and all of this is fine and dandy, but I don't know where it connects to this movie.
That's what I was. That's what I was thinking. It's like, there's a straight line between Japan and Brazil. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no fucking idea, man. It's
yeah. It's one of the motion pictures made of all time.
yeah, not Miike's finest, but you know what? You crank out over 100 movies, some of them are not going to be that good.
Yeah,
Um,
you crank out a Rainy Dog, you're going to throw out a Ley Lines every once in a while.
yeah, yeah. There's some sort of
And
fishing metaphor here that
yeah,
I'm not going to make.
uh,
Something about the fishing line. I don't fucking know. But yeah, as far as Rainy Dog goes, I told you this when I rewatched the movie. Like, I think this might be like a top Miike film for me. Like this and his 13 Assassins remake that he
yeah,
did. And honestly, his Harakiri remake is really good too. I
yeah,
like the 60s one better, but his is
yeah,
also like as far as like a modern remake goes, it's like as good as you could get.
yeah.
Um,
This Rainy Dog, it it's definitely like a. I'm curious to watch some of his like earlier work pre Shinjuku Triad Society.
right.
I saw there was like his first movie on YouTube. I
Hmm.
was kind of interested in watching it. It's like a action movie about like a prostitute or something. Sounds
Yeah.
dope.
Uh,
Um,
I remember trying to watch a. It's really weird trying to watch some movies from the like V cinema era
yeah.
because you'll find you're like, oh, it's on a streaming service, and then you click it, and you're like, oh, the only copy of this piece of cinema is a 240p MP4 on Tubi.
Hell yeah.
What the fuck? How do I watch
What
this?
watching movies as David Lynch intended.
240p on Tubi.
on your Apple iWatch.
Yeah. Oh God.
Um, yeah, it really is like a step up for Miike, I think, and it shows like I think a connection between the two sides of Miike that we were talking about. There's the really experimental, rambunctious, like wanting to
Rambunctious.
wanting to entertain himself because he's bored, Miike, um, and the like more controlled, uh, even regal, like Miike of like 13 Assassins and Harakiri.
Right.
It's
This.
kind of
Oh,
sorry.
I was gonna say Rainy Dogs felt. It felt like the kind of thematic thing you're supposed to draw. The same feeling that you get from those um, Takeshi Kitano gangster films. That's kind of
Yeah,
how I felt about this.
right.
Um,
It really feels more like a Katano film if
yeah,
we're
it's
making this connection
yeah.
here.
it
um,
it definitely had that feeling, um, and it might just be
it's
because most of the other Miike things I've seen, besides like his Jidai Geki, to use the Japanese terminology for his
mhm.
period pieces, which are very much like uh, almost just pure, uh, like a pure expression of like his cinematic flex with those.
Yeah,
Um, this felt closer to those than the other two movies in this trilogy. It's very strange
yeah,
to be like
yeah,
sandwiched between them like that.
yeah. It kind of reminds me of the. This might be like a strange comparison, but it reminds me of that Edgar Wright movie that came out like 3 years ago now, The Last Night in Soho.
Oh, still have not
Um,
seen that one.
very different movie, but the comparison here is like Edgar Wright before this movie is a very like over enthusiastic filmmaker, which is really fun for like Hot Fuzz and like The World's End and Baby Driver and whatnot.
Hmm.
Um, but he really pulls back in Last Night in Soho, It feels just like a really well done thriller with a little bit of his sensibility sprinkled in. And I get that a lot from Rainy Dog. It's just a really well told crime drama with just a little Miike spice thrown in for good measure.
Yeah, and the biggest kernel of that Miike spice, there was a whole 3/4 of a peppercorn that didn't quite get ground down. Was the fucking goofy hitman guy that shows up, and is introduced pissing off of a rooftop into the streets of Taipei
with this like fucking CGI blue flame covering his dick.
Yeah, I have to assume that was just like a stylistic choice of like, well, we have to censor this, but like, how are we going to do it? Just a blue energy beam, like Palpatine is like zapping his crotch.
Yeah,
but like, it looks worse than Palpatine's lightning from 1983. Is it because all it is just like a shitty like blue squiggle that's just like moving around? You're like, what the fuck is this?
It feels like they were just like, oh yeah, make it blue.
Yeah. And they did the same thing in
Ley lines.
In ley lines with another set of genitalia. So, fun fact.
Yeah, so it's a story. Oh, we kind of hinted at it earlier. It's a story about this former Yakuza who becomes a hitman in Taipei, and his a girl he hooked up with like probably 5-6 years prior shows up with what is presumably what she says is his son, and tells him to deal with him, and she disappears for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, she's just gone. Correctly. She never shows up again.
And
she was such a shitty parent that she didn't even teach the kid to speak.
Yeah.
Like, he's just a mute. And it's not as though he's, like, mentally challenged, because as the movie goes on and the main character, Yuji, kind of shacks up with this, like, prostitute named Lily. And they're on the run at some point in the film. We'll get to that. She's, like, teaching the child, Chen, I think his name was. She's teaching Chen how to read and write his name. And so it's like, he knows how, he's not like retarded to use the like in its official terminology of retarded. He just hasn't been like, he's just been neglected, and he kind of gets neglected pretty hardcore by the main character for most of this movie.
I was getting kind of annoyed with old Yuji boy.
I was like, this is a really shitty guy. Like, she shows up and she's like, this is your son. He doesn't say a word to him, and he kind of like goes out on the street, and the kid's like following him, and then the kid watches him just blow a guy's brains out and then walk away. And then he's like sitting out in the rain, and he like, without a word, lets him into his apartment, kind of like you'd let a dog in.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four, say that again, .gif right there. He was like some dog out in the rain or something. And so he lets him into his apartment, and
what are we, some kind of rainy dog?
He and then he does the same thing again, and there's like this really, it's almost kind of cute in a sense, but like sad at the same time, where like he's going out to kill another person for this, like, as a job as a hitman, and he's walking down the street, and the shot is kind of framed like the camera is further down the street, and about 10 feet back from him walking down the street is the kid following, just kind of lazily following behind him. And there's a part where he sees the target, and the kid sees that he sees his target, and then he like goes to hide behind something because he saw what happened last time. And it starts to rain, and I guess the main like problem for the main character in this, besides the fact that he is a guy who's on the run for his life, is that he's a hitman who won't kill anyone while it's raining. He has like this weird superstition about rain. So he like puts his gun away, and then he goes to this like whorehouse, and he just hangs out with this Lily character for like a week while it just keeps raining.
Leaves his son out in the rain, by the way.
Yeah, leaves his son out in the rain.
I don't know if that was clear.
And his son is hanging out with a dog in an alleyway, eating trash out of garbage bags.
Yeah.
And it's like, Jesus Christ, man. This is just awful. Happening? You just feel like you just feel bad for this kid the entire movie, because like the fact that he's not hesitant at all to start eating garbage out of a garbage bag, and he knows what things to like discard just by looking at it. It's like this kid has had to scrounge through garbage while he was under the care of this woman too. Like he's used to this. And you're like, oh my god, this movie is just brutal. And when Yuji actually, it finally stops raining and he goes and kills the his target, it's like this gay Chinese triad guy.
Right.
Where there was
many such cases apparently.
When Tom and I were watching this movie, because I watched it with Tumulus. We were watching it, and like I was like, I'm getting kind of like a gay vibe from this dude. And then like there's another character that is like the boyfriend of the triad guy, but there's also the character that is the brother of the triad guy. So there's like these two dudes that want revenge for the guy that got killed, and he kills that guy. Huh?
Oh, I was gonna say Joe's Gaydar is just like, we have a reading on 1200 knots.
Yeah. I think I got no context quoted in the Discord server. Because the boyfriend character was like, he had a cross necklace, and Tumulus had said something about that guy being a Christian, and then I had uttered the words just aimlessly watching the movie, he's a gay Christian Chinaman. We'll get to the quote that's immediately after that if you're looking at it in Discord right now, Cody.
yes I am.
So
please enlighten me.
Yeah, so we're he kills that guy, and then he finds that guy was carrying like this big bag full of, or like a suitcase full of money. And while he was hanging out with this Lily character, she kind of just offhandedly mentioned that she didn't want to be in Taipei anymore. She wanted to go somewhere else where, you know, life would be better. And she kind of has this really sad point that she makes where she basically says like, it might be better to stay here, because if I go somewhere else with the hope that it's better and it's the same, then I will have lost even the illusion that there's grass greener somewhere else. And you're like, fuck. This movie is just like, it's like trying to destroy your soul.
Unrelenting.
And like he kind of has that, like that choice right there to like bring her into this was like the worst thing he did the entire movie, because he gets her pulled into this conflict where like they're running away with like presumably, as far as like American dollar value, like at least $1 million in this suitcase. And so it's her and him and this kid, and they end up like getting in this taxi, and they're getting like shot at by these triad dudes, and the taxi guy just drops them off at the beach. And they spend the night in like a World War II era bunker on the beach, which was a really cool scene. Like as far as like scenery goes in a movie, like eventually it's going to get to the point where like even places like D-Day, like Juno Beach and stuff, those cliff sides with the bunkers and stuff are eroding year by year. So like World War II bunkers and stuff like that, especially ones on like beaches and things, are going to be at some point, you know, just gone. But that looked like they legitimately filmed in a World War II era bunker, which was really, really cool. And they had like a little campfire going in it. Aesthetically, just like a very beautiful film. The way that it uses the rain, it's almost like how people describe Kurosawa using rain, where it just adds so much movement and sound to the like frame as you're just taking in the movie.
Yeah, this movie was very Kurosawa. Like Takashi Miike really utilizing blocking and like triangles and squares with placement of actors and
Right.
bosses and all that good shit, and
Yeah.
not a lot of like the frantic camera movement of Shinjuku Triad Society.
No, not at all. Everything felt
It'll
very like slow and deliberate.
yeah,
And except for parts where it is action, but the action in this is like breakneck speed. It is.
yeah.
It starts and it's over like immediately.
Mhm.
And I think it works for the way that the movie was going, like thematically wise, and just the
Yeah,
tone, the
yeah, right.
just sudden brutal violence that just ends. You're just like, oh fuck, well that was that. Uh,
Yep.
it's almost uh, it's almost like Hong Kong esque. We're just comparing this to so many other things right now. It's like John Woo. It's like fucking Takeshi Kitano. It's like
Kurosawa.
Kurosawa.
It's
Yeah,
like
I mean,
yeah,
it. I guess you take the best from who did it best.
yeah, and I mean John Woo's like coming out with a lot of his like bangers at this time period too. So
Right. I think we should at some
it's
point do an episode on not boiling point, hard boiled. That'd be cool.
yeah, yeah,
Break out of stay in the Asian market, but break out of the
yeah.
Japanese and go into the Hong Kong. uh,
Yeah. Just a little like siesta. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Uh, and I think probably like my favorite part of this movie was the sequence after he realizes that his boss has sold him out to these triad dudes and they know where he's hiding on the beach with Lily and Chen, and
Yeah.
they just start walking down the beach, and Chen finds a buried like scooter, one of those like
Yeah.
electric scooters or whatever, or not, or like a moped or whatever, and
Hmm.
uh he it's weird seeing like he forms this pseudo family unit with Lily and Chen, and
Yeah.
they start digging up this scooter, and he has this moment where he's like, this isn't going to work, right? Like, this thing's not going
Yeah.
to have gas in it, or even if it does, it's not going to work. And then like the next shot is you see a hill,
Mhm.
and in the horizon you slowly see them cresting the hill on the scooter, all sitting on
Yeah.
it, and it's
Yeah.
like this movie is starting to build towards like a happy ending. It doesn't.
Nope.
No.
And when I got to the end of the movie and you mentioned that scooter thing, I had to go rewatch it because I don't think it quite clicked.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh yeah, no, that's really great.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It's
then
like building
what?
towards this like expectation of you're like, oh, he said it's not going to work. She had this whole point about like uh being afraid to actually go somewhere where with hope that things might be better, because if she does and that it doesn't work out, then she won't have anything. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, things are
And
starting to work out for
boy
the
was she right.
Yeah. And they go to stay with her friend who she talks to online.
Yeah.
Which this is
The
like
gay friend we mentioned earlier.
the gay friend online, and this
Yeah.
is why this was like one of the earliest don't have internet friends messages in a film, because
Yeah.
her internet friend immediately sells her out to the triads, because there's like a scene earlier where the brother of the guy that was killed by Yuji sees that they've gone to the whorehouse where she was staying, and have talked to the proprietor of the place, and found out that he had spent like a week with her, and they use her computer to like alter her blog to put out like a reward for her. So her friend had ratted them out before they even got there.
Mm-hmm.
Very tragic scene too, because like she yells from the balcony down to her friend who's like on the phone, and they just kind of look up and then just run away. Like, oh my god. And it's raining too, and this is kind of like the point where his superstition about going out in the rain is pushed to its limit, where he's like, I have to go out and into the rain now. And he tells Lily and Chen to go to the train station and he'll be like right back or whatever. And like the millisecond he leaves, they get caught, and the Lily is killed by the Triad guys, and it is not shown, but somehow like the most brutal killing in my mind as far as like these three movies go.
Right.
Just by virtue of like this is a character that like had like obviously everyone has hopes and dreams, but like this is a character where like they vocalize their hopes and dreams within the confines of the story, and you've like seen this build up of like this sort of pseudo family unit, and then she gets killed off screen. But then there's like a shot of her laying there, and the Triads take the kid and they're walking around the corner, and the camera, I have to imagine it's supposed to be like a POV shot from the kid's perspective as they're walking away, and the camera just kind of slowly goes around the corner, and her body just kind of leaves the frame just by being cut off by the scenery. Yeah. It's like, Jesus Christ.
It's rough.
It is very rough.
Another thing about this that you can kind of tell when someone, especially someone like Miike, is being serious and then also like being kind of like jokey about violence.
Right.
It's if you like when you cut away from violence, it tends to be something that you want the audience to take seriously. Or if you shoot it in a kind of shadows and fog kind of way. There's some scenes, like there's the one scene of the two dudes like playing chess or checkers or something.
Yeah.
And you see this guy in the background, you know he's coming to kill them. And he like walks up and you see him like go back behind the guy's head, and he's coming back again, goes back behind the head again, and then walks back in, finally walks in and like just like drop kicks the two guys and shoots them while they're like just off screen.
Yeah, that's a very good scene, because not to keep harping on comparing to Kurosawa, but the way that the main character hides his gun in his waistband on his back, and the way he pulls out the gun and like extends his arm out to the side as he cocks the revolver, it kind of reminds me of the there was a point that was made about Kurosawa when he made Yojimbo, where like he had actors where he would specifically tell them to like repeat a specific kind of motion, where so that even in like a long like a far away shot of characters, you can kind of tell who is who just by the quirk of that character. Like the bodyguard in Yojimbo, he kind of he's constantly like adjusting his shoulder. He's like doing like little like he's like rolling his shoulder a bit. This kind of thing that he does repeatedly. And Yuji, just the way he wields his gun, he always does that. He hides it in his waistband, in his back, and he like does this weird like extension with his arm when he pulls it out. I just thought it was neat.
Yeah, it's like unsheathing a katana. Basically.
it's a motion he does 1,000 times kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you're just like that's and not necessarily 1,000 times in the movie, but it's like you get the sense like he's so used to shooting people.
Yeah.
And
the movie ends bad. It's a tragedy.
It is a tragedy. I guess to kind of loop back to my point about the second no context quote that I had been quoted on. The brother
is killing me.
The brother of the Triad character. There's a scene where it's actually at that guy's funeral, and his mother is crying over the grave, or the coffin rather, of the one that was killed, and the guy's lighter is on his coffin, and the brother kind of picks it up and looks at it, and he like flicks it open, and he just says, "Can I have this?" And she's like, "Yeah, you can have it." And he puts it in like his breast pocket on his shirt. Now there was some sort of engraving on the lighter, and the way that the scene was shot, and there was no close up of the lighter, but just the general silhouette of it, Tom and I both thought that he had, because we were also operating off of the premise that this character was gay, so this might have been like just like a straight up just homophobic moment. But like, we're watching the movie, and the guy picks up the lighter, and there's like this silhouette of like an engraving on it. I swear to God, I thought it was a dick. Like I just thought he had a dick engraved on his lighter. I was like, why the fuck? Why is that?
He
on
has
his
a cock on his lighter. Just little bit of homophobia thrown in.
I was like, what the fuck? Is that a dick on his lighter? And it was like a Zippo lighter, so it had like the flip off lid part, and like that was right, yeah. It even looked like that's where the head was. Like I was like what the hell? But I don't think it was, because there was never like a close up moment where it's like, haha, there's a dick on his lighter.
Yeah, it's like that like old Key and Peele sketch of like where Key plays like the super gay coworker. He's got like dick straws and like a mug. And Peele is like, can you like stop being so gay in public? And
he's like, what are you talking about?
And the punchline at the end is that Peele's also gay.
Oh. Yeah. So I guess the way that the movie ends is the scene you described where he goes in and he shoots the two dudes that were playing chess, and then he turns around and he gets shot in the back. Actually, he gets shot in the shoulder, and he turns around and he sees the two triad dudes that are left, the brother and I assume the boyfriend of the guy that got killed, and they're holding a gun to the kid's head, and they're basically like about to shoot the main character, and the kid, witnessing what's about to happen, has his first like utterance of the movie where he basically just screams, because he has not made a sound the entire movie. He screams because his dad is about to be killed, and this sudden change from this mute child to suddenly screaming like distracts them enough that Yuji's able to shoot both of them in the chest. And then they kind of have this moment where he hugs his son, and the kid kind of stumbles out the word "papa," and you're like, oh, it's gonna end. It's gonna be a somewhat happy ending. Lily still got murdered, which was traumatizing. And then the Yakuza hitman, who was originally like, I guess we kind of glossed over him. He was the one that was pissing off of the rooftop that we mentioned earlier. He was like he was also a Yakuza who was sent to Taipei to kill Yuji. Right. And Yuji stopped him from killing him earlier, and then beat the shit out of him and didn't kill him and left him alive. That guy shows up at the end of the movie and just guns down Yuji, just kills him, and has this little moment where like, I think it might have been going for like a laugh, where like he takes all of this shit he's been carrying around the whole movie and he like throws it on the ground, and he's like having this little celebration to himself, and then he just leaves. And then
earlier, I don't know if we mentioned this earlier in the movie, they got in a fight. And you think Yuji like stomps him out and kills him, but it never actually like shows his body. Like that's the classic like no body, no crime kind of thing. If you don't see a body on screen, he's still alive. And then he comes back in the end because he didn't kill him
and kills him. And the real kicker is the triad character's brother gets up because the bullet that was shot at his chest hit the lighter. And the lighter fucking absorbed the entire bullet, and it just like, it didn't penetrate through it, and it didn't kill him. And he kind of just tells the kid, it's similar to the scene in Kill Bill actually, where in the first Kill Bill, where she kills Vernita Green, the black lady. He throws the knife into her chest, and then her kid comes in, and she basically tells her like, when you grow up, if you still feel off about it, I'll be waiting for you. Like, when you grow up, come and try and kill me. See if you can, kind of thing. They have that little interaction, and then the movie ends.
Kind of badass, to be honest.
It is kind of badass, and it's like, it is a tragedy. And I guess the thing about a tragedy is you don't want it to be a tragedy. It wouldn't have, the movie wouldn't have been nearly as good if they didn't have the scenes where it built up my expectation of there being a happy ending. The downtime with the characters adds a surprising amount of depth, even when the dialogue itself isn't really like that profound.
Right.
It really humanizes the characters, and
it,
like at the end of the day, they're just actors playing characters, but like you feel their deaths, even though
right.
they're kind of shitty. I mean, Lily's just some like random prostitute lady, but like the main guy is like a hitman, and you feel bad for him dying at the end of the movie because like his kid was there and saw it.
Yeah, and he's even like a shitty fucking father at
Right?
the beginning
Yeah.
of the movie, and by the end you're like, oh, I want him to like take care of his son now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's basically punished for his lack of conviction, basically at the beginning.
Yeah.
And the to kind of wrap it up here because I've had actually quite a long day. I had to buy a fucking car,
Yeah.
which is nice. It's nice to have a car, but good fucking god, is it an ordeal to just buy a car?
Right.
It ain't like going to the supermarket, kiddos. Fucking bullshit. Hate it.
Yes. One car, please, and can I get a bag for that?
Can you supersize that? 0 out of 10 would not recommend buying a car. Having a car, 10 out of 10.
Just do the thing that Driver does in Drive and like stick the little metal thing in the window and like pop the lock and then steal it. Don't buy a car.
Yeah. Not because I'm a thief, but because I'm lazy. The thing that I was thinking about through all three of these movies is it's three different versions of like one is like three different versions of telling you this is how to make a movie. The first one is like, this is how you make something really like wild and crazy and just like get up and shoot something and see what you come up with. The second one is like, this is like taking a kind of what was probably, I would say, like an okay script and like elevating it to like a really well done movie. And then the third one is like, don't do that.
The third one's don't do that.
Yeah.
Damn.
That one is
you know what?
how
The third
not
movie
to
had
do
some
it.
interesting shots in it. I think. I mean,
Yeah,
it's competently shot. There was
Yeah.
one part where I was watching it. I was like, I need to mention this. The scene where they're in the red room and the guy's developing the film, and it's one he's just watching someone fingering somebody.
Yeah, and he does it over and over again.
he's replaying it over and over again, and it's got the fucking blue squiggle sensor thing.
Yeah.
That scene, I liked how you had the red as the background and they were silhouetted and then they would briefly be illuminated in white light when he was developing the film. I thought that shot was like if you just had that in like a short film or like a student film, it would be like that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot to like in ley lines. It just doesn't all come together. That's
No.
the main problem with it. But Rainy Dog is damn near a masterpiece, if not a masterpiece. And Shinjuku Triad Society is really cool.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, I think that'll do it for this week. We'll be back next week talking some sci-fi. We'll keep some suspense on it for this time around.
Yeah, give you a little Hitchcock action there with that suspense. You don't know what's coming next week.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
That was dumb.
Yeah, it was. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Comment if you like or hated it. Preferably if you liked it. Otherwise, I'll just dislike
but hey, if you hated it, comment anyway.
Yeah. Tell a friend about the cast and share it around, whatever, all that YouTube jazz. Leave a review on Spotify and Apple. And I think that's it. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, see you next week.